So the Jewish day begins, Vayerev Vayiboker. It was evening, it was morning, each day. So our day begins, Erev, the night, and then the day. And that is indicative of our view of the world. Meaning, first there is confusion, there's darkness, and then there is or, and then there is illumination. Right? First there's Olam Hazeh, there's this world, our physical world with all of the confusion that accompanies this world because God is concealed. And then comes Olam Haba. So it's always Choshech and then or. It's always getting better and better. Right? But we start off with a lack of clarity. But there's an exception. Right? When it comes to sacrifices that were brought in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, so there, the sacrifice is brought in the morning, and you could eat it for one day, so you could eat it that morning, and then that night. Right? So there in the Beit HaMikdash, it goes with morning, and then night. Right? So I think the emphasis there is not the and then night, but the emphasis there is the day it starts with the or, with the light, with the clarity. Why? Because in the Beit HaMikdash, the temple was a place where one felt that clarity. One felt that spirituality. One didn't have that confusion. The Beit HaMikdash the temple was a place where there were constant miracles that went on over there. So there, it's not a situation of dark and then it get right. There, we are immersed in the light. We enter into that light. So in the Beit HaMikdash, there's an exception to that. So that's
people don't eat it at night anyway.
People don't eat at night?
During the night, except Ramadan. They do the walk.
Right,
so you said why people brought sacrifices in the morning and they were eating them all day long.
Day and night. And that night they could eat it, yeah. Okay, so let's go to Parshat Ba'alotcha, which is on page 774. And this is a very, very strange and unique parasha.
What does it mean? How do you pronounce it?
Be'ha'alotcha is when you will kindle, or actually literally to send up the lights. So it starts off, well, let's see how it starts off. So want to take it for us, Ivrit, b'vakasha? Beautiful. So Ora, you read about the Neirot. Very fitting. Ora, Neirot. Right? Very, very fitting. Good. In English, please. Somebody for us in English?
Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you kindle the lamps toward the face of the menorah, shall the 7 lamps cast light." And Aaron did so. Toward the face of the menorah he kindled its lamps, and as Hashem had commanded Moses. This is the workmanship of the menorah, hammered out gold. From its base to its flower it is hammered out, according to the vision that Hashem showed Moses. So did he make the menorah.
Okay. So it's a little bit strange that we're jumping in. We had Parsha, we had the Sefer Shemot, we discussed all the different parts of the Beit HaMikdash, of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. So why over here are we speaking about the Neirot? So it's very, very interesting. The Neirot is the menorah and the candles and the lamps that were lit in the Beit HaMikdash.
Why not?
I'm sorry?
Why not to speak here?
Why now over here? You know, back in the book of Exodus and Shemot, that's what we had about all of the. We had about the Mishkan, right? And Vayikra, we had the service that was done there, right? Why over here now, right? Are we talking about specifically these Neirot? It's a very, very interesting approach. The last thing we had in Parsha Naso was this almost laborious repetition of all of the gifts that each tribe, there was the Nasi, the leader of each tribe, and the leader of each tribe brought the gifts to, right, brought these gifts, these donations to the Mishkan. So the question came up during one of my classes yesterday, I forget which one. Right, so someone said to me, I understand. Actually, it was your son-in-law who asked me. Alex asked me. Yeah. So, So the question was this. We have 12 tribes. So how do we have 12 tribes? Because we know that Joseph was divided up into 2 tribes. His 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, were each considered to be tribes. Right? So therefore, so how do we have 12? We have 13.
One of them was kind of guessed out. Not guessed out, but...
Okay, so the answer is that if we count Levi as one of the tribes, then we count Yosef as one tribe. So we have our 12. If we don't count Levi, then we count Yosef as 2, and that way we always have our 12. When are we leaving out Levi? When is Levi left out?
He was get the land.
Okay, good.
Right.
When it came to dividing the land, Levi was left out. Why? What did Levi do wrong?
He didn't. He has different responsibilities in life.
On the contrary, but don't use that term like that,
Okay.
Dahlia. Right? The Torah says Levi was not given a portion in land. Why? Because we need Levi, the tribe, to be spread out amongst all of the tribes, because they are the spiritual leaders. So you can't have all of them in one area and the rest of the nation spread out. So therefore they were forced to live amongst, and every tribe had the Arei Leviim. There were 42 Arei Leviim, Levite cities, spread out amongst all the tribes to make sure that they were able to do their job, do their teachings. But one second, if they don't have land, they don't have farms, they don't have food, what are they supposed to eat?
There was 10% of the...
So we have that everyone has to take off the truma, 1/50th of their produce, to go to the Kohanim, and the maaser, 1/10, that goes to the Levites, right? So and on the contrary, because someone used the term shnur, right, which has a negative connotation. I know. On the contrary, the Kohen was not allowed to go to the Beit HaGoranot. The Kohen was not allowed to go to the granaries in order to take his portion. Because then it would be, what's the Kohen doing for me today? Which Kohen is working harder? Is he helping out? So why should I give him? No, we need to bring it to them. It's our tribute to them for the job that they do. So, in Israel, dividing the land, that's one place where Levi was not included, and therefore Manasseh and Ephraim. Yosef is counted as 2, his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and we have 12. Now, also over here, when they're all bringing the gifts, the donation to the Beit HaMikdash, so Manasseh and Ephraim brought, because Levi was not included. Why was Levi not included? Because these were gifts for the Levium. It included, right? They gave the wagons. These were gifts that were there for the Levium, right? In order to do their service there in the Beit, the Kohen and the Levium do the service in the temple. Therefore, they didn't bring. The tribe of Levi, of Kohen, did not bring. And our Parsha start, we're on page
No,
774.
I still have a question about how this whole process flow.
Yeah?
So you have Levium who were, for whatever number of months, were posted to the Beit HaMikdash from whatever city they came from. And they rotated in and out. And then others stayed in the various cities. So the Maser, I thought it was only for the Levium who were at the Beit HaMikdash. But you're
No.
saying, so that's
Correct.
what I'm not getting is,
Correct.
how did that whole process
Correct.
flow?
So again, Levi did not receive land in Israel
Right.
because they need to be spread out to be there as the teachers and the spiritual leaders. Now there's another issue that you're bringing up, which was that there were 24 shifts of Kohanim. And each shift would come for a week of service in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple. Right? Kohanim, and along with the Kohanim there would be designated Leviim, and also designated Yisroelim, designated Israelites, because every sacrifice that was brought had to have its owners accompanying that sacrifice. So you had to have representatives of Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. So that's a cycle that's going on, shifts, the Mishmarot they were called, right? But besides that, the Leviim were there as the teachers, and the Kohanim as teachers, spiritual leaders. They had their own cities, right, spread out amongst the tribes. They did not receive the land.
So were they required to offer classes and other Yisrael would
I would
come?
imagine so. I would imagine they had the Tuesday morning class. Yeah. Yes, Ara.
Forgive my ignorance. Can you explain the difference between Kohanim and Leviim?
Yes. So the tribe of Levi are the descendants of Levi, right? And the tribe of Yehuda, descendants of Judah, etc., etc. Amongst the tribe of Levi, right? So the sons, the descendants of Aharon, have the status of Kohanim. So that was one part of the tribe of Levi. And they are the Kohanim. And to this day, if a person is his father, right, etc., then that person is a Kohen. They'll get the first aliyah. When we're reading from the Torah, we're calling it people for aliyot, they'll get the first aliyah. And when the time comes for the Bayit Shlishi, they'll be the third temple, so they will be the ones who will be performing the avodah. The Chavetz Chaim used to say, we're talking about we want the temple, but the Kohanim don't know anything. They're not well versed in all these laws, right? So he started, and to this day it goes on in the old city. There is Torah Kohanim. There is yeshivot for the Kohanim to learn their laws, to learn how to do their avodah. Yes?
I have a question. I understand 12 tribes in relation to the division of the land, but why still we constantly say 12 tribes of Israel? Why not 13? Just in general, there are 12 tribes of Israel, not 13. There are 12 tribes as far as division of the land, yes. But why don't we say 13 tribes?
Because we never have 13. We're either counting Levi and Yosef, or we're not counting Levi and we're counting Menashe and Ephraim, right? And and this is built on Yaakov's 12 children. Okay. So we still speak about the 12 tribes, even though nowadays, right, we don't really know where 10 of them are, right? And it's fascinating what you see in the world, these different pockets, in these remote places of people who are observing. Right, the Ethiopians are a perfect example that they were observing, almost all of the halachot, but not all, because there were certain things that we adopted at a later point that they were not rabbinic things that they were not privy to. So it's fascinating, and now they are integrated into Israeli society, and so it's truly fascinating. Yes.
I'm waiting for the other part of the answer. You answered about
So if you're from the tribe of Levi and you're not a descendant of Aaron, then you just remain a Levi. There's the general pool of the tribe of Levi, and then there are those select ones who are the Kohanim, who have special laws to this day in terms of who they can marry and things like that. There are certain laws that that still apply to this day about the Kohanim. Yes, Dov?
There is in the future Kohanim that will come into service that they didn't know they were Kohanim.
Yeah? Yeah?
And it also could be that some people might just
Who thought they were Kohanim,
just
and we might
become
find out that they're not
Also,
Kohanim.
there could be
Yeah.
Israeli that could become.
Yeah?
But
Yeah?
it's amazing that the majority really know after all those years.
Yeah?
We found out like genetic testing.
Yeah,
and stuff like this.
actually there was
It's
genetic
amazing.
testing that was done, and there's a certain Kohen gene,
And they want it.
that a
But
certain,
it
certain
goes
marker.
Like a father all the time.
Yeah.
But do they
Yeah.
do they marry between the Kohanim? Do they marry within the tribe?
Not necessarily. Right? A Kohen does not necessarily marry a Kohenet, the daughter of a Kohen. No.
But
You
it
know-
always goes by the father, so it doesn't
Right.
matter who they marry.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
how do they preserve the gene over so many years?
Because this is a certain gene that's passed down paternally.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So during those 24 cycles, the Kohen gets the portion of the chatat and the peace offerings
Okay.
that is prescribed in the Torah.
Okay.
But other times during the year when they're in their cities,
They
they're
get the-
not entitled to. So how?
Correct. They get the truma.
Like must.
The truma is
So they only
It's-
get grains, and they're not having meat more than twice a year.
so you could sell stuff, you could barter stuff.
Oh, I see. And
Okay, so Ba'alotcha begins with the Neirot, right? Hashem says, speak to Aaron, and when you will kindle the lamps of the menorah, etc. So, famously, Rashi brings, Lama nismecha parsha menorah la parsha nisiyim. Why is this parsha of the menorah adjacent to the parsha, the issue, the topic we had before of the Nisiyim, the leaders of the tribes, each bringing their donations? When Aaron saw the gifts of the tribes, Chal Shadato, he felt remiss, he felt lacking. That he was not there, part of this dedication of the Mishkan. Lohu, the Lo Shivto, not him nor his tribe. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said to him, Chayecha, by your life, Shalcha, Gedola Shemishalahem. That which is coming to you is greater than theirs. Shatam Madlik Umetivat HaNeirot. Your job is the lighting of the Neirot, of the candles. That is, I was reading from Rashi. That is Rashi's commentary over here. Right? So the question that's asked is, so what does that mean? Why is the menorah any greater than these gifts that the Nisiyim, that the leaders of the tribes brought? Aaron was feeling that he was left out of that. Right? But what was the comfort? What's greater about the menorah? So the Ramban actually has down on the bottom over here, offers a beautiful explanation. If you look on 774 in the English that's underneath the very bottom of the page, we have the two columns. By the left column, the second paragraph. Ramban explains. I'm down over here, everybody. Ramban explains. Let me see where I am. 774, not 775. Everybody look over here.
Yeah.
774.
What is Tanhuma?
That is one of the Medrashim. That's a Medrash. Ramban explains why the menorah was singled out for this consolation instead of other more auspicious rituals, such as the Yom Kippur service, which must be performed exclusively by the Kohen Gadol. Right? So why is the menorah so great, and why is that chosen? There was many things that Aaron and only Aaron would do. He explains, based in part on Tanchuma, that the kindling in this passage alludes to a later menorah, that of the miracle of Chanukah. The Medrash is alluding to Chanukah. God was alluding to Aaron that his role was greater than that of the leaders, because there would be a time when the temple service would be discontinued by the Syrian Greeks, right? During the time of the Second Temple, when the Syrian Greeks prevented us from doing the service in the temple, and the Torah would be on the verge of being forgotten. Only the faith and heroism of the Chashmonaim, a family of Aaron's priestly descendants, would succeed in driving out the enemy, purifying the temple, and once more kindling the menorah after a tragic hiatus of many years. Thus God comforted Aaron, his family would one day save the nation. Now what's really interesting from a historical perspective is the Chashmonaim, who were Aaron's descendants, they did save us from the Greeks. Right? However, once they had saved us from the Greeks, they should have handed over the rulership back to the tribe of Judah. But they maintained their leadership, and in the end, right, it was right. They were beaten, right, and led to the destruction of the Second Temple, and that's where we still are today. Yes, Dov.
It's a simple thing. If you don't have light, you can't do one thing. You have to have light to see what you're doing.
Okay.
But you can't solve them because the rest of the people were afraid. I think Matijao, whatever they say.
Initially, they had to step up and do it, and they did it. That was beautiful. But the problem was afterwards. There should have been a transition of power.
To whom?
To the leaders of Judah.
Yeah, but they were scared.
At that point, the transition could have been made, and it wasn't. Okay, let's jump to page 786. We have something very, very strange in the Torah here. Right? We always speak about Chamisha Chumshei Torah.
Which is
Right? The 5 books of the Torah. The Chumash. Chumash comes from the word Chomesh. Right? A 5th. Right? Chamesh is 5. Chomesh is a 5th. Chumash is one of the 5 books. But there is a Medrash that says that there are actually 7 books of the Torah. 7 books. You have Bereshit, 1, Shmot, Exodus 2, Vayikra, Leviticus 3. You have Bamidbar up until page 786. You see we have that paragraph with these backwards, upside down nuns. In the Torah itself, we have these backwards, upside down nuns setting off these 2 verses. So the 4th book is Bamidbar until this point. The 5th book is these 2 psukim. The 6th book is from that point after these 2 psukim, the rest of Bamidbar. And the 7th book is Devarim. So there are 7 chumashim. And these 2 psukim make up a sefer, according to the Medrash. And there is a halachic ramification of that. Let's say you have a sefer Torah, that is in tremendous disarray, disrepair, torn, blotted out. Does it still have the kedusha of a sefer Torah?
Yes,
So it depends. If it has 83 letters, 83 or 85, I have to count.
I still don't understand the 76.
No, it's
Bamidbar before, these 2, Bamidbar after, plus 4.
2 Bamidbars then.
3 Bamidbars. Bamidbar until this point, these 2 psukim,
This is considered
Bamidbar after that point. Right? So if you have enough letters that are intact equal to these 2 psukim, then it has the Kedusha of a Sefer Torah. Why? Because you have a whole Sefer that is intact.
Cool.
So how are we supposed to understand, what are these 2 psukim? Why are they their own Sefer? Why are they separated? The only place in the entire Torah we have such a strange thing of these backward nuns separating these two psukim. So there are a number of different approaches about why these are here. There are one opinion says, this is not the proper place for these psukim, right? Let's see what's going on over here. They left Har Sinai and were traveling with the ark, right? We go to Lamed Gimel. Vayis'u mi Har Hashem, they traveled from Har Hashem, the mountain of God. Derech, a travel of 3 days, Shlosh Yamim. Va'aron Brit Hashem, and the ark of the covenant of God, Nosea Lifneihem, was traveling before them, Derech Shlosh Yamim, 3 days, Latur Lehem Menucha, in order to guide them towards their resting place. Va'anan Hashem Aleim Yomam, and the cloud of God was upon them by day. Bin Nas'am, when they traveled Min HaMachaneh. And then Vayihi ben Sa'aron, and it was when the Aaron would travel. Vayomer Moshe, Moshe would say, Kuma Hashem v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha. Sounds familiar, right? Mm-hmm. Right now we take out the Torah, this is what we sing. And Moshe said, Kum Hashem, arise Hashem v'yafutzu oivecha, and let your enemies be scattered, v'yanusu misanecha, and those who hate you will flee mipanecha. Uvenucha Yomar. This is what we say every time that we return the Sefer Torah back to the Aron Kodesh. Uvenucha Yomar. And when it rested, he would say, Shuva Hashem Rivavot Alfei Yisroel. Right? Shuva Hashem, right? Reside tranquilly, Hashem, amongst the multitudes, the myriad thousands of Yisrael. Now, there are those that say that the proper place, if you look back on page 734, keep the place here, but go back to page 734. That's what we're talking about, the actual traveling in the Midbar. There were different digalim, different groups. There were 3 tribes that would travel in the front, and then the 3 tribes of Ruvain would travel, and then verse 17, V'nasa Oel Moed, and then the Oel Moed, the tent of meeting, the Machan Levian, the camp of Levian, Betocha Machanot, which was a mit in the middle of the camps. Kasher Yachanu Ken Yiso Isho L'Diglehem. As they camped, that's how they traveled. So this Pasuk 17 is actually talking about when the Oel Moed would travel. So that's what we would say, Vayihi ben Sa'aron. And then when the Aaron would travel, right, that's what we should speak about. That's where it should be. Right? And actually, they point out, we have these paragraph breaks, right, in the Torah. Those are called Parashot. Right? Now, it's actually 50 paragraphs later is where we have Vayihi ben Sa'aron. Right? 50 of these, here's 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3, 4, 5. Right? In the Torah, we have these paragraph breaks. Right? So it's actually 50 later. Nun is the numerical value of 50. So it's actually 50 parshiot back where this is supposed to be. So then why was it put over here? So the sages say something that at first glance seems very strange, but actually opens up a whole incredible understanding for us. They say it needed to be here to separate between Puranut and Puranut. Puranut means punishment, bad act, right? Yeah. Mistaken act of ours.
So
it needed
punishment or bad act?
Well, a bad act which could lead to a punishment. Okay? Mm-hmm. And therefore, the Torah wanted to separate one Puranut from the other Puranut. Otherwise, Ein Tukumali Yisrael, we'd have no way of getting ourselves back onto our feet. So let's look right after these two psukim. We're back to 786. Vayihi ha'am kemit onanim ra baznei Hashem. And the nation was, chapter 11, verse 1, 786, the last line now. And the nation was kemit onanim. What's mit onain is? To complain. What's kemit onanim? Right? Like complaining. So the English says seeking complaints.
Looking for something to complain.
Right. Right. We're familiar with that. Right. Sometimes we want to kvetch a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have to find something to complain about. We are commit onanim. Right. Kids certainly. Right. They get into a mood, and adults also act like kids often. We get into a mood, and what are we doing? Commit onanim. Right. Vayishma Hashem, and Hashem heard. Right. Vayichar apo bam. Right? Right? And, right, so this is when all of the complaints are starting. Okay? And it's going to be one after another. Right? The complainers, I'm reading on the side of the parak, 79, dissatisfaction with the man. Right? And that's going to read the quail. That's the next, then we have shlach, we have the spies. Right? I mean, the rest of Bamidbar is sort of tortured with this going wrong, and that going wrong, and this complaint, and that complaint. Rabbi Sachs had a very, very beautiful idea. Right? Leaving before until this point we had the leaving Egypt. Right? The Exodus, and then we have the going to the land of Israel. So you'd think that, the hard part was leaving Egypt. And now it's clear sailing on our way to Israel. Right? And we see, of course, it's the opposite. We had all the miraculous leaving of Egypt, and then we had all the difficulties in the Midbar, which ended up in the desert, which ended up lasting 40 years. So he says it's always harder. Right? To go from is easy, right? And then what do you go to, right? That's where you look at the world today, with the Arab Spring, right? It was easy, or not. It was relatively easy and clear to cast off, right? But then what do you do? So Iraq got rid of Saddam Hussein, but then where do you go to? Right? That's where you have all of the challenges. The United States, what was incredible was when we threw off the British rule. Right?
We already had a blueprint and a plan,
right?
though.
But then we had and it was kept to. It was Washington stepped down. That was unprecedented. That a person would step down from power. Right? Look what's going on with the Palestinians today, with Abbas, who was elected, 12, 13 years ago for a 4-year term? Right? Anyone else doing the math as I'm saying that? Right? 12, 13 years ago for a 4-year term? Right? The leaving is easy. The going to is difficult. And that's what we have over here. It's torturous. But what's beforehand? So if you look beforehand, again on 786, we have Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Vayis'u mehar Hashem.
What pasuk?
33, sorry. Vayis'u, they journeyed mehar Hashem, from the mountain of God, from Har Sinai. Derech shloshet yamim, a distance of 3 days. And the Aron and the ark was traveling in front of them, etc.
Okay, so this is my confusion.
Let me just, okay? And the ark was traveling there in front of them. So now, what is the Puranut? What is the problem over there?
It's getting distance from God.
Yes. But how did they leave? How would they know when it's time to travel?
Supposed to be the cloud.
The clouds would go and they would follow. So it means the clouds started to go and they followed. So then what is the complaint against them? What is this puranut? So, very, very, let me find it over here.
It goes back to the sea.
Yeah, so if you look back to page 380 for a moment. Page 380, that's after the splitting of the Yam Suf. Right, so Moshe, after the splitting of the sea, Moshe led the men in their Az Yashir, and then Miriam led the women, and then Pasuk Chaf Bet, verse 22, Vayasa Moshe et Yisroel mi Yam Suf. What's Vayasa Moshe et Yisroel?
He made them travel.
He made them travel from Yam Suf. Why were they reluctant to leave Yam Suf? Because all the riches of the Egyptian cavalry was coming up onto the shore after the waters had come down upon the Egyptians. So Moshe had them travel from Yam Suf. And they came to Midbar Shore. So there the clouds started to go. But, right, I'll catch up. I'll be there soon. I'm coming. Don't wait for me. I'll get there. There was Vayasa Moshe et Yisrael. Here, what was it? Vayisu Mehar Hashem. Here, they wanted to leave from that Har Hashem. There was no urging that was necessary on the part of Moshe. And the sages say, Ketinok haboreach mi beit hasefer. Like a child who runs away from school, right? The bell rings, right? They are out of there. What is this issue? What is at the core here of this puranut?
Complaints?
Of their want, the complaints are coming afterwards. Lack of faith, or I would say even a lack of this want to connect. It's very intense over there in Har Sinai. And I want to distance myself a little bit from that intensity.
But we also have to remember that after the wonderful great thing like getting the Torah, there was Chet HaEgel in the same place that wasn't that good. And now, Vayibin saw Aaron and then complaining. I mean, we always heavy.
Yes, and then there was the Luchot, and then there was the Luchot Shniot, and then there was the Luchot Shniot.
But still,
right? I'm sorry. Then there were the second. Then there were the second tablets, right? With the message of forgiveness, right? Right?
Yeah. So it was a place of wonder and wonderful and there was a place still that remind you.
Okay.
What's the question? I don't
Okay. So again, let's just backtrack a little bit. So we have the first puranut, which was our wanting to leave, to book out of Har Sinai. And the Torah needed to separate that from the second one, which was Vayam K'metonim, the people were complaining. Right? So the Torah, by putting these two psukim in the middle, it separated the two. But that seems very, very strange. What sort of separation? So you put some psukim there that doesn't actually interfere with the events. Right? We left Har Sinai and we started complaining. So what is putting these two verses in the middle, what does that accomplish? It doesn't break it up.
What two verses?
The two verses of 35 and 36, when the ark would journey, Moses would say, right? Those two verses are stuck. They're supposed to be elsewhere in the Torah. They're stuck in over here. That's why the two backward nuns. Look over here, Rachel, for a moment. These are two backward nuns.
I don't understand Hebrew.
I know, that's why I'm showing you the picture, though.
Backward or forward nuns, I don't understand.
Fair enough. There's a paragraph break, and there's a letter hanging in the middle over there.
Okay.
That letter doesn't belong over there.
Okay.
It's there to separate these two verses,
Yeah,
because this is not the proper place. It should have been back 50 paragraphs earlier. That's what we were discussing in the traveling. Why is it over here? To separate between the first punishment of our eagerness to leave our Sinai and the second punishment which resulted from our complaints that came afterwards. But the question that I'm asking is, if in fact we left and then we started complaining, those were two consecutive events, what is putting these two psukim, sticking these two verses in the middle when the Torah is about to tell us about it? What does that accomplish? What does that do? Are you asking a question or are you commenting on this?
Commenting on that.
Yes.
Perhaps because it's a physical spacing, so that gives distance between the tzukim.
Emotional
That shows the danger or alerts B'nai Yisroel going forward of the danger of trying to give some space to Hashem, between Hashem.
At the
and
time,
then she
it's
would
not
start to take other things for granted.
good. At the time, it's not doing anything. These events happened one after the other.
Right, but
So
as
I hear
we
what you're
learn.
saying. Good. Now, it seems that this first episode of leaving Har Sinai is the root of all the problems that come afterwards.
So we should have stayed there?
Not that we should have stayed there. It was time to go. But our attitude when we were going, that is the root for all the problems that follow in Bamidbar and for all that goes on in our lives also. In other words, the root was, let me distance myself. Let me remove myself from this presence. Let me cause this distance. I need a little buffer. I can't deal with God too much. Let me move myself away from Har Sinai.
Oh, but Har Sinai by itself is a piece of rock. It's the experience that they experienced there.
Yes.
But
And that was too, yes, you're right. Right? We don't give credence and ascribe holiness to Mount Sinai itself. But that experience, that intense experience, that's what we wanted to start to travel away from.
For forever.
Yes, but we needed to take that with us. The whole Mishkan, the tabernacle, was meant to be this intense Har Sinai, Mount Sinai experience. As we mentioned before, as you started with a question about the day, the night, and the day. In the Mishkan, in the Beit HaMikdash, in the tabernacle, in the temple, there was that clarity that they began with.
On that level of experience, of emotional, not strength, but emotional, not excitement, stress. For a long period of time, you have to actually.
So it's not meant to be stress. It's meant to be connection. Right? The problem is that we often conflate the two, and we say, "Oh, that's stress," but it's not meant to be stress. So the psukim over here, there's something else very, very interesting. The Balaturim points out how many words are there in the first pasuk. Vayhi ben so Aaron vayomer Moshe kuma Hashem vayafutzu oivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha. There are 12 words in that pasuk. Keeping the place there, turn to page 1124. That is the very last pasuk of the Torah. And what do we have over there? Ulechol hayad hachazaka, ulechol hamorah hagadol, asher asa Moshe le'enei call Yisroel. The last pasuk of the Torah has 12 words. Vayhi ben Soa has 12 words. Interesting. Let's go back to the 786, the second pasuk. Uvnucha yomar shuva Hashem rivavot alfei Yisrael. The second pasuk has 7 words. Take a guess which other pasuk has 7 words.
One before last.
The first pasuk of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So he says that this is considered like a sefer, or even like the entire Torah, right? It has 12 words, and it has 7 words. What's the problem with what he's saying, though? The order is off, right? Miri says,
First the seven,
right?
and then
That the first one should have 7, like the first pasuk, and the second one should have 12, like the last pasuk. So let's understand a
we are
little
the
bit.
people of Manishtana.
Let's understand a little bit further. Bnei Yisrael are compared to the Levana. The children of Israel are compared to the moon.